don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz and this is Create and Crime Time, where I'm your host. I sit down and I talk about some true crime. Now, if you didn't catch who I'm talking about today, with the quote that I gave before I introduced myself, we're going to be talking about Miss Brenda Spencer, the girl that did not like Mondays. Now, this case, which is the Cleveland Elementary School shooting that happened in San Diego, California, this inspired the Boomtown Rats to write the song I Don't Like Mondays. Specifically inspired Bob Geldof and Johnny Fingers to write the song. So, basically, this was a school shooting that took place on the 29th of January of 1979, and this was a public elementary school in San Diego, California. There were 8 children, a police officer injured, a principal, and a custodian, unfortunately, were killed in this. Now, the perpetrator is a 16-year-old girl, and her name is Brenda Spencer. Now, she lived right across from the school, like in the house right across from the school, and she would ultimately be convicted of the shootings. She would be charged as an adult, and she pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon, and thus far was sentenced to life in prison with a chance of parole after 25 years. Now, who is Brenda Spencer? Now, Brenda Spencer was born on the 3rd of April of 1962, and she lived in the San Carlos neighborhood of San Diego, California. Obviously, in house right across the street from Grover Cleveland Elementary School. Now, when she was 16, she was about 5'2", and she had bright red hair. Now, after her parents separated, she lived with their father, and she kind of lived in poverty. Her and her dad slept on a single mattress on the living room floor in the house that they lived in, with empty bottles from alcohol everywhere. Now, people that knew her said that she was very hostile when it came to people of the law, and she had at one time spoken about shooting a police officer at one point. And she talked about doing something super big to get famous and go on TV. Now, she was a very good photographer, and she won first prize in the Humane Society competition for photography as well. But here's the thing, she didn't like school. She wasn't interested in school. She attended Patrick Henry High School, and one of her teachers there said that she would inquire a lot if she was actually awake during class. And during tests while she was in custody, it was discovered that she actually suffered from an injury on her temporal lobe of her brain. And this was because of an accident she had on her bicycle. Now, in early 1978, their staff at a facility had an issue with some problem students, and one of them was Brenda Spencer, and she was referred to get more help because of truancy. And the school also informed her parents that she was suicidal. Now, that summer of 1978, this is when Brenda, who was known to hunt birds in their neighborhood, was arrested for shooting the windows out at Grover Cleveland Elementary School. And she shot the windows out with a BB gun, and she was also arrested for burglary. Now, in December, she underwent a psychiatric evaluation that was put together because of her probation officer. And it was recommended that she be admitted to a hospital for her depression, but her father refused to give them permission to admit her. Now, for Christmas that year as well, her father gave her a Ruger 1022 semi-automatic 22 caliber rifle that had a telescopic sight on it, and along with 500 rounds of ammunition. Brenda later would say that she asked for a radio and her dad bought her a gun. And when they asked why he had bought her a gun, she said, "I felt like he wanted me to kill myself." Such a nice, like, dynamic, right? Such a nice dynamic, you know. Yeah. So on the morning of January 29th of 1979, Brenda began shooting at children that were waiting for their principal. Now, this is Principal Burton Ragg. He was 53, waiting for the principal to open the gates to the elementary school. She injured 8 children, starting with 9-year-old Cam Miller. He was wearing blue, which was Brenda's favorite color. Brenda then shot and killed the principal as him and a teacher, Daryl Barnes, tried to help the children get in. She also killed their custodian. His name was Mike Sukar. He was 56. And this was as he tried to pull the children away to safety. There was a police officer that responded to the call, age 28, and responded to a call for assistance during the incident. He was wounded in the neck when he arrived. Now, any further casualties were avoided because police got in the way of her line of fire by moving a garbage truck in front of her house. So, ultimately, Brenda fired 30 times. She barricaded herself inside of her house for several hours. And when she was there, this is when she spoke on the telephone to the San Diego Union Tribune, specifically a reporter for them, who had been randomly calling numbers in the neighborhood just to figure out where. Now, Brenda told the reporter that she had shot the children and the adults because she doesn't like Mondays and it livens up the day. She also went on to tell the negotiators for the police department that the children and adults whom she shot were easy targets, and she was going to eventually come out and continue shooting. Brenda repeatedly reminding them of these statements she made at parole hearings as well. And ultimately, Brenda surrendered and she left her house. And this is after she was promised a Burger King meal. So, police, when they entered the house, this is when they find beer and whiskey bottles that cluttered the house. And Brenda did not appear to be intoxicated when she was arrested. That was just simply the state of her house. So, she, like I said, she was charged as an adult, and she pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon. And on the 4th of April of 1980, this is the day after her 18th birthday, she was sentenced to 25 years to life. Now, while she was in prison, she was diagnosed with epilepsy, and she has received medication for her epilepsy and her depression. And while she was in the California Institution for Women in Chino, she also started working repairing electronic equipment. So she's, while rehabilitating herself for, the remainder of her life that she's there, she's actually trying to move forward with her life. So after the shooting at Grover Cleveland Elementary School, they put up a plaque and a flagpole to memorialize the shooting victims. The school was closed in 1983, along with a bunch of other schools around the city, and this is due to the fact of a lack of enrollment or declining enrollment. Now, within the decades after this, there were several charter and private schools that leased the building, and from 2005 to 2017, it actually housed the Magnolia Science Academy, which was a public charter school, like middle school, serving kids 6 through 8. In 2018, unfortunately, the school was demolished, but the plaque memorializing the actual shooting was relocated to a nearby street corner, just to let people know of what did happen at the school that was once standing there. Now, on January 17th of 1989, now almost 10 years after the shooting, there was another shooting at a school named Grover Cleveland Elementary, but this one was at in Stockton, California. 5 students were killed there and 30 were injured. One survivor of the shooting described it as like her being shocked, saddened, and horrified by what happened. And because it's super similar to that of what happened at both elementary schools. Now, back to Brenda. She became eligible for parole in 1993. Normally, very few people that are convicted of murder are able to obtain parole in California before 2011. Now, as of December 2015, she has been severely unsuccessful at her own parole hearings in the parole board hearings. At her first hearing, she said she hoped the police would shoot her, and that she had been a user of alcohol and drugs. Although there was no, they did tests on her and there was nothing in her system. At her 2001 hearing, she claimed that her father had been subjecting her to beating and sexual abuse, but when they asked him, he denied all of it. The chairman of the parole board said that she had not previously been open to any of the prison staff and officials about these allegations, and he actually doubted whether or not she was speaking the truth. In 2005, the deputy district attorney actually cited an incident from about 4 years earlier. Now, this is a self-harm incident where Brenda's girlfriend was released from jail, and because of her girlfriend being released from jail, Brenda kind of freaked out. And she was basically having a psychotic break. And the self-harm, basically said that there were scratchings of the word courage and pride into her own skin. However, when Brenda was up for parole, she corrected them, saying that it read unforgiven and alone. In 2009, the board again refused her application for parole and ruled it would be 10 years before she would be considered again. Now, as of February of 2022, so this year, she still remains in the same prison, the California Institution for Women. She was eligible for a parole hearing in 2021, but voluntarily waived it for 1 year. So her next hearing isn't until this year of September 9th of 2022. Yeah. So it's gonna be an interesting year with all of the paroles, the people that are up for parole. So obviously, like I said, the Boomtown Rats were inspired by this case, and they wrote the song I Don't Like Mondays. They also actually incorporated the reporters when they say tell me why and all that in the song. This was the band's biggest hit in their native land of Ireland. It didn't make the top 40 in the United States, but it still received a lot of airplay outside of the San Diego area. A lot of airplay. Yeah. So Bob Geldof, who's the lead singer of the Boomtown Rats, he actually said that Brenda wrote him saying that she was glad she did it because he made her famous. And he did not feel really good after receiving this, and he said it's not a good thing to live with. So there is 2 books that do talk about this. One of them is Babyface Killers, The Horrifying True Stories of America's Youngest Murderers. That came out in 1999 by Clifford L. Leindecker. And he actually dedicated the prologue to Brenda and refers to her crimes in multiple different chapters of the book. And in 2008, there was a book called Ceremonial Violence, A Psychological Explanation of School Shootings by Jonathan Fast. This analyzes the Grover Cleveland Elementary School shootings and 4 other cases from a specific psychological perspective. There was a documentary film, a Japanese-American documentary film about this that came out in 1982, and also one in 2006, which is a British documentary called I Don't Like Mondays that revisits the case. On TV as well, there was a documentary called I Don't Like Mondays that was released in 2006. Lifetime also has a series called Killer Kids, and her episode is called Deadly Compulsion, and that came out in 2014. On Investigation Discovery, they have also portrayed Brenda's crimes in one of, on the series Deadly Women in the episode called Thrill Killers, and that came out in 2008. But that, my friends, is the case of the Grover Cleveland elementary school shootings by Brenda Spencer and why she doesn't like Mondays. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and be a part of my growing channel and all of the fun goodies that are coming up. I'm really excited to share that with you guys, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys tomorrow in a brand new video. Bye, you guys.